What's up, YouTube? So, on this episode, we're going to talk about something called planned obsolescence and what that means and what it has to do with the new issues that have been coming out with the iPhones, with the batteries, what's really going on, in my opinion of it, uh, and just basically the general issue. So, planned obsolescence is a term that's coined to mean that basically someone who manufactures a product intends for it to only work for a certain amount of time, so they have to sell you a newer version of the product or a new product. If you've been watching the news at all in the last week, you will have seen Apple is getting a lot of flack for battery issues with the iPhones, specifically the older models. What's going on with a lot of people, a lot of my customers have been coming in, is that basically their devices are either running way slower than before or not running at all. Some customers have been complaining that their phones are just not working, like not even cutting on or just cutting off. Like the battery actually was bad, but the battery's fine. If you have an iPhone and you have a Mac, there's a program called Coconut Battery you can get for your Mac and test your battery and see. So if if you're having this issue, you can find out and see what's going on with that, because if you're getting the maintenance message on your iPhone and you test it on Coconut and it's very odd because your battery may show 80% capacity, well, it really shouldn't need to be replaced. So what's happened is been documented from like the community of repair people, is that they do the update to the newer iOS 11. They ran an app to clock the processor before and after, and they're seeing basically the processors getting nerfed and running at basically half power. As well as, like I said, some people have had their phones just cutting off, just not holding the same amount of battery. We have seen just a huge explosion of people coming in saying, hey, they need their batteries replaced. And then, like I said, usually that happens. I'm going to test your battery and see what the capacity is. And before this, there is no way I would recommend you change your battery at like 80%. 40 to 50%, you might want to look at replacing your battery, because that means that that actual piece of hardware needs to be replaced. So now here we are, and as far as what people are seeing in real world scenarios is, yeah, under 80%, they have been having these issues, which is frankly ridiculous. There's been a lot of flack on the internet, on Reddit, on news articles. People are pretty pissed about this. And Apple, of course, finally has to respond, since there's a lot of backlash on it. Apple's response is that it's some sort of a safety measure to protect the device. I'm not sure exactly what their reasoning is, because it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But they're basically saying it's to protect the device from like low power issues from those batteries. Well, I don't know, because I don't work at Apple, exactly what they're doing. But my 2 cents based on what I do know is it definitely does seem like the interest is in trying to sell people new devices. And the reason being is, we've had smartphones for going on a decade now, and I haven't seen any other phone have this issue or do what has happened with these phones. Uh, Including the older iPhones. I mean, this is something that's just never shown up before. It's just very strange. Um, as well as something I do know about is as far as how an iPhone works on a board level. You've got all these little pieces on a motherboard that do many different functions. Some of them filter the amount of power so it remains at a steady voltage. There are fuses on the board which protect for things like power surges or issues in the device with its battery or with charging that would damage components on the board. It was a known thing with the iPad minis that there was actually a fuse that would blow if there was a short, or not a short, sorry, if there was a power arc near the battery. You replace that fuse and then it works again. Now the rest of the device worked fine, but that fuse did its job and it stopped that power surge from blowing up stuff further down the board. So there's hardware stuff in place to protect phones. So this is a very odd, very fishy excuse for doing so, because you have to look at Apple. They're not your friend, they're not your enemy, they're a business. I never really understood the fanboyism on any brand. They're there at the end of the day to show up for work, just like I show up for work, and to make money. However, they make more money than just about everybody right now, so they're able to get away with doing things that other companies wouldn't get away with doing. I guarantee you HTC would never try a stunt like that to try to get people to move over to the newer HTC phones, because their market share is so small that they would absolutely just like shut down from that. Like nobody would buy HTCs if they tried to pull something like that. So it's going to be really interesting to see where this goes moving forward with this issue. Instead of actually kind of, I guess you would say, righting the wrong. I don't really look at it as a right or wrong thing, but trying to appease the masses, they're saying that instead of charging their normal $69, I believe, for a battery replacement, they are saying, well, we're going to charge $29. Well, that's kind of funny because they created the issue, but they're not willing to, make it back the way it was, either by rolling out an update that stops this issue or by replacing the battery free of charge, which is perfectly fine for me because, I'm there to make customers' headaches go away and pay my bills in the process of doing so. So if people have to come to me to get this issue fixed, that's fine. I do feel for them because I don't feel like it's something that they should have to pay for, period. It's nothing that's actually physically wrong with the device. However, replacing the battery does make the issue go away. From our experience, if you do have that battery replaced, the issue stops. You check the processor clock speed after when a new battery is put in. The processor speed goes back to normal. The function goes back to normal when you put in a battery that's new and at 100% capacity. So I know it sucks. I definitely would feel burnt if I owned one. I understand the aggravation towards it. Once again, I don't work at Apple, so I don't know if they're telling the truth or not. I just know that it's awfully convenient that they have new phones that aren't selling quite as well as previous generations. They're still doing amazing like they always have financially, but they're definitely not hitting the sales projections like they used to, not the amount of growth that they used to. So it's very convenient that all of a sudden the issue shows up where the old phones don't work as good anymore. And frankly, a lot of people don't feel like screwing with a battery replacement. There's a lot of people out there that will just replace the device, and it incentivizes them to go purchase a new device. So I guess we're going to see where this goes going forward. We had other issues in the past that we saw with phones where it caused a bad experience for the user. If something had to be fixed or if something happened with the hardware where Apple had completely backpedaled. If you Google Error 53, I think it was called a couple years ago, you'll see some more issue on that, or some more information, on that. So we'll see where they go going forward. I guess if enough customers are aggravated and they voice their opinion online, they may roll out an update and completely take that feature or whatever you want to call it out of iOS, and maybe the phones will work like they used to. Time will tell, and I will be interested to watch and see how this plays out. But that's it.